Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video I'll be doing my tips for round 15, going through the round 14 tips as well and how well I did. So before we get into the video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into the video. So as you can see here, a 3 of 6 round for me, pretty bad round, but you know, I think I lost a lot of ground late on in the round, but in the end, nothing much I can obviously do about it. Just got to tip better in this round. And I think was it any games that I was really bad on. So obviously with the Port one, I tipped Port by 14. They won by 38, so I was a little bit off with that. I tipped Brisbane by 25, and they won by 16 in the end. Really should have won by probably about 25 or 30. So that was a decent tip. Well, I tipped Freo by 18. They lost by 70. Didn't expect that one. Freo's pretty much, I think every tip I've pretty much lost. I've gone wrong with that tip. Richmond versus St Kilda. I tipped St Kilda by 13 and they lost by 20. So I got that tip wrong. Tipped Gold Coast by 11 and they lost by 59. So I got that tip wrong. And then I tipped North Melbourne. I tipped Western Bulldogs over North Melbourne by 48, and Western Bulldogs only won by 21. So not the best tip from me, but yeah. So we move on to the next week basically, and hopefully there's some better games because that was a pretty bad tipping week. I can't remember because this is on the Thursday. This isn't like usually I record these on the Wednesday or even the Tuesday some of the times for these tipping videos. I can't really remember what happened in these games, a lot of them, because they're over, like most of these games are almost a week old, and so can't remember what really. I do remember the Richmond St Kilda game. St Kilda should have honestly come back, but they just didn't. Fremantle just looked terrible from what I remember. And Gold Coast as well just looked terrible. Carlton actually turned up for a week. So now we move on to these games. And I actually did bring a pen this week, so I don't have to go off and grab one. Geelong versus Melbourne. Melbourne don't have Clary back, but they still have won against Collingwood and beat Carlton. So I'm going to go with Melbourne just because I don't rate Geelong at this point. So I'm going to go Melbourne by, I think, for 17 points tonight. So I'll go Melbourne by 17. I just think that Petrarca is going to have one of those nights. And I think Melbourne can solidify themselves as the third best team in the comp. Yes, Port have their bye and Collingwood will probably jump them. But I think that Melbourne are probably actually going to be a grand final team, or there or thereabouts, because I do think one of Port or Collingwood will hit a wall in the finals and they will fall off because they're both notable for that, I guess, especially Port. And I do think we will see a Melbourne versus one of these two. I think there's a clear top four with Brisbane, Melbourne, Collingwood and Port. And I just think we'll see the top two of the top four obviously get into the grand final. But I do think Melbourne is in prime position because they've done it before. They're a very experienced squad, whereas I don't think Port have the finals experience to be able to do it. I think they have the finals experience of losing each week. So did Brisbane. So could Brisbane come over that hoodoo? I don't think so. So I think it's going to be Melbourne versus probably Collingwood in the grand final, I'd say. But knowing how it turns out, they're probably going to play each other. If they play each other, then they sort of get on the other side of the bracket and they can't play each other to the grand final. But anyway, just trying to probably stretch this video out a little bit. St Kilda versus the Brisbane Lions. Brisbane play horribly away from home, but they do have Josh Dunkley at Marvel Stadium, which will help lift them. So I am going to go Brisbane, but I think it's going to be a tight one. I'm going to say by like 12 points, even though Brisbane could easily blow them out. I do think that St Kilda need to respond because they had from memory, they've had a pretty bad showing. Yes, they obviously did beat the Swans in round 13. But even that, they were pretty poor, and the Swans could have honestly almost beat them. And pre-bye, they lost to Hawthorn, and They also just beat the Giants. I think Brisbane gets over the line here as they're in relatively decent form. They beat the Swans by 16. They lost. So I say that, and they both literally have played the same teams, haven't they? Who do they play here? They played Adelaide, and then they played Gold Coast, and yeah. So I'm just going to say Brisbane because I think they're a stronger side, and I do think St Kilda aren't the best with Steele there, and I think that Brisbane with Neil, Dunkley, and Ashcroft all there, they should be able to get over the top of St Kilda. Swans, if the Swans don't win this, you might see John Longmire legitimately sacked just off this one singular game. They have to win this. Like, there's no way that they can win. If I let's just look at the injury list and just start scrolling. And where is it? They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 guys on the injured list. And they've got like 4 or 5 guys coming back this week. They've got like Duggan coming back and other guys. So you're going to see 4 or 5 changes, as well as these aren't even tests for a lot of these guys. They've already added the guys that are coming back out of this. So they had about 20 injuries in the bye week. So if the Swans don't win this, when the West Coast legitimately can only put out, if they have a 40-man squad, can only put out 23 guys that are injury-free. If they can't win this, I don't see them winning another game, to be honest. And I think Swans need they need to obviously win this, but they will win this by 40-odd points. So I'm going to say 40 on the dot. Then you have Fremantle versus Essendon, and I think Freo win this. Oh, Essendon. Wait a second. It is over in the West, but I think Fremantle obviously need to respond. But I just think that Freo have been pretty bad post-bye. I don't know what it is. Maybe Caleb Strong's still carrying something, but something isn't clicking, and I'm actually going to go against the odds and say Essendon go into Perth and win it. I'm going to say they're going to win it in a tight one by 7 points. Yes, that's probably going to be completely wrong, but I think the odds are a little bit off here. Then you have Collingwood versus Adelaide. Collingwood should win this, but it is at the MCG, and I'm pretty sure Adelaide don't travel well. So I'm going to go Collingwood, and I'm going to go Collingwood by 17 points. But the only hope that Adelaide really have is to win the midfield battle and win it convincingly, because if they're getting balls to Rochelle, Laird, and Dawson, a couple of the really good disposal, especially Dawson, if he can kick it to a lead-up target, they're gonna score well, and they need to score well against Collingwood to win a game. They're gonna need to kick probably 110 points to win the game, I'd say. So Adelaide aren't going to win this game because I think it's going to end up probably around the 100 to 80 mark. Well, I say Collingwood by 17, but somewhere in that margin there. But I think it will be a higher scoring game. So watch it rain and it be like 60 to 40 or something after I've said it's going to be a high scoring game. And then you have Gold Coast versus Hawthorn, and Hawthorn don't have Sicily, which I think is a massive blow. And I do think that Gold Coast have some guys coming back. So I think Gold Coast is going to win this game. And I'm going to say Gold Coast by 14 points. So that's if I go back 1 second, if I go back to this screen, my hotkeys are actually working. That's my tips for round 15, the last bye round. So last of these smaller tipping videos, I think, because more games and hopefully some better, closer flip of the coin type games coming up in the future, where I can hopefully get some decent tips in. Not the best round last week, but hopefully this round I can get some more tips right and potentially climb back up the ladders. But yeah, that's the video there, and I'll see you guys for, hopefully, I think it's the last video of the week from me. A very spurty type of week in terms of video uploads rather than the smooth week, but hopefully that returns to normal in a couple weeks. So thanks guys, goodbye.